Okay, am I audible to you all? Can I get a good confirmation?
Yes, sir.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, you can stay seated in wherever you are currently. So this is going to be the first official session to help you all progress from your current state of preparation to 40 plus an audit. Okay, 40 plus is what we're looking at. It's 100% certainty. Again, I'm saying 40 plus with 100% certainty, irrespective of the question paper, irrespective of the difficulty level, irrespective of the evaluation. So no ifs and buts in this cycle. Are we good? Okay, fine. So let me give you a quick context of audit. So if you think about articleship, what is the first thing which comes to your mind? What do you do in articleship?
Stat audit, internal audit, tax audit.
Mostly audit. So when you think about audit, it's mostly audit. Now, what is the other name of chartered accountant? How do people address it?
Auditor.
Yeah. Okay. So this is exactly what I'm saying. In common parlance, audit is something which is absolutely central to our profession. So that is the reason why it is very important. And please understand that it is the most practical subject. Okay. So Maitreya, what I'll do is I'll probably give them a 10-minute overview of the subject and then I'll give it to you. Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason why I'm adding this context before we jump into the content is you come with an inhibition that audit is easy or difficult. So first of all, you have to understand it is practical. Now, whatever is practical is always difficult because you cannot learn it from the book. Right? So anything practical is difficult because you have to learn it through practice. Now, when I say learning it through practice, you may or may not have the opportunity of learning it through regular practice. So if you have to replicate the experience and expertise through a book, you have to put in that additional effort. So that is the reason why audit is a bit difficult. Now, the fundamental problem when you prepare with other materials, they are very good at summarizing. So summarizing the content is fine, but you need to understand the context of why a particular chapter is given and why a particular question is asked. So it might give you an illusionary feeling that you have covered it in short steps or short notes or short questions, but it is important for you to know the context. Most of the questions would be asked around the context. So that is the reason why, irrespective of what material you might be using, here we consciously make you prepare ICA material for audit. At least we'll go through them. For revision and all, we can have other things. We'll do index mapping. We'll go through all the learning outcomes. We'll go through all the summary of the chapters, and we'll go through all the test your knowledge and test your understanding questions. Okay, this is all the set of things which you'll do. Most likely, it won't take 3 to 4 days for you with the pace which you're doing. I think Kushal, you recently done one module in 1 day. You understand the process, right? So that's 7 hour into 1 hour, Kushal. You're muted. Kushal, I'm audible.
Kushal.
Just a second. Now you should be able to. Yeah, should be able to unmute. Yeah. So Kushal, when you have been asked to complete that entire module in 1 day, how did it go?
Yes, sir. I was able to get the start and end point of the respective chapter. So I had an idea that from where it starts, where it ends, and got a complete flow of entire module in one. So in a day, I could cover 7 chapters. I had done the second module, and in a day, I could get an overview of 7 chapters. What comes inside it, as you gave the order of first learning outcomes, and then summary, that is the key takeaways in the chapter, and followed by the test your knowledge questions.
So this is exactly what we're talking about. So when you have 1 day, you can reasonably complete a module very comfortably. It's not that you'll learn everything, but you'll understand the scope of the subject. Okay. So we just tried it recently, and all of you have already started doing it 1 hour per chapter and all of that. So you have a context. Now, with the given context, which is already there, how do we get to the 40 is what we're looking at. So we're looking at achieving this target by August 7th, maximum by August 10th. Okay. Got it. So I'll probably share you something which we have prepared for our earlier students. It's for the old syllabus, but I thought it's relevant for 2 to 3 reasons. So I'm sharing the screen. Please let me know if you're able to see this. Is the screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. One of the reasons why audit is a bit difficult is in financial reporting, the application part is fine, but audit being a non-arithmetic chapter, still a non-arithmetic subject, still the application part is extremely high. Almost 50+% is application oriented. So when you have to apply something which is non-arithmetic, you have to put in a lot of mental effort to do that. It's not easy. So application in numbers is easy. Application in theory is not easy. Okay, that is the reason why you fundamentally find it complex. And in terms of weightage, this is what we're talking about. So 60 marks is application oriented. So the base 25 marks, we can score 15 here. Remaining 60, even if you score another 20, 25 here, you'll be able to get through this with the top 2 skills which are required for audit. In terms of understanding various questions, these are the 3 skills which get tested for you. One is comprehension and knowledge, analysis and application, evaluation synthesis. This is given by Board of Studies, so all of you should have clear understanding. We'll give you printouts of all of this, but you should have clear understanding of how each of the things will work. And we have given certain terms which are linked to this. So while writing the questions, you should be able to understand what exactly is the object of the question. Is it an evaluation based question, or analysis based question, or skill and knowledge based question? These are some of the chapters in the previous syllabus, but largely these 4 chapters, the weightage of the 4 chapters will remain the same. And the reason why we segregate this is you have to understand that not all chapters would require the same amount of importance or weightage. So there is a priority. We don't say this is important, this is not important, but there is a priority. We'll get there. So while we're doing this initial cycle, we don't want to differentiate. You're completing the entire syllabus. There comes a point where you have to revise certain chapters more as compared to other chapters. That is when the priority comes into picture. That is the reason why I'm not focusing on that. So you're completing 100% of syllabus while you're beginning, because you don't know what is difficult or easy. Just because I say difficult or easy, it may or may not be the thing. For example, professional ethics for a lot of students, it is difficult, but it might be easy for you. So let's test and try it out. We always conduct a lot of surveys all across India. So one of the surveys which clearly point out is what is your weakest subject? Straightforward audit. So this is exactly how whole of India feels, and I believe some of you have come here specifically for audit, and the scores also we can see largely the scoring pattern is on the lower side of 35. Almost 60 to 70% of the people score less than 35. So it is not your problem; it is the problem, and in terms of knowing why people get very less marks in audit. So there are certain examiner comments. We have compiled all of them. Again, we'll share them at an appropriate time. But you should clearly know that most of the time, the students are failing to give specific answers. Examiners give a general answer and fail to give specific answer. Irrelevant points, not aware of the specific requirements, fail to point out the basic assumptions. So most of the examiners know. So the whole idea is answers are very vague. Answers are very vague and generic. Vague and generic. This is the most important problem in audit. And you can go on and on. So most of them always write general answers. Okay, we are not asking general answers. So this is a risk in audit, which you have to clearly avoid. So there are more and more aspects linked to this. The schedule and all of that, we'll get to that. The whole idea is, see, you need to know 2 or 3 things. One, how can you complete audit in 100 hours? And then eventually, how can you actually revise it within those 20 hours? So 100 hours of core preparation, 50 hours of further cycle, next cycle, and 20 hours of short and intense revision before the exam. So there are 3 cycles: 100 hours, 50 hours, 20 hours. You have to cross 40 in the first 100 hours. You have to cross 40 plus in the first 100 hours. Next 50 hours, it has to move to 45 and consolidate. Last 20 hours is all about, which is 1.5 day before the exam, is all about ensuring that you touch that figure which you got in the first 150 hours. To revise that, you have 20 hours. This is exactly how the equation works. Is it clear? Okay. And apart from this, we'll give you access to this at a later point of time. In our previous batch, this has been prepared and compiled to help you understand the whole subject in a single sheet. Okay, so we had a student named Mitra, so we worked together with Mitra to create this. It is the best available summary, which is completely extracted out of ICM modules, which is student prepared. So when you say student prepared, the language connects to you at a very easy and fundamental level. This is necessary, but not sufficient to score 40, but this is definitely necessary because if you see, you'll get an overview of each and every chapter in a single glance, and you also know what are the key topics to focus upon. So this gives you a very good understanding of the whole thing. And beyond this, for each and every chapter, for each and every topic, this is like the enhanced index mapping. Now, index mapping, you write 2 to 3 words, and then we sat, and this has been prepared with the objective to write 2 to 3 sentences. So effectively, index mapping is 1%. This is 10%. So if you prepare only this 10% properly, still you will be able to crack 40 minutes. Okay, so this is there for all the chapters. So do not worry about short notes and all. You will get access. But for you to use the short notes, you have to have a reasonable understanding of how the subject flows. Is it clear? So this is more for module 1, module 2, and module 3. So I have everything which is required for you to cross 40 plus. And now we would be talking about how you can complete the latest syllabus. There's 19 chapters which can be completed in a span of 7 to 10 days. Why 7 days? We already gave you a context of 3 to 4 days earlier, but we're looking at 7 days with an enhanced deadline of, I would say, another 3 days. So this is exactly what we're going to start from tomorrow. So now I invite CA Maitreya to take over. CA Maitreya has very good experience both in terms of preparation and also hands-on experience while working. He's currently working with Grant Thornton, so he'll be the in charge to help you cross 40 plus audit in this cycle. Maitreya, over to you.
So, hi. So, starting with audit, your first preparation cycle would be exciting for somebody, scary for somebody. Irrespective of what are you feeling, we need to score 40 in the subject. So, that is the intention that we are starting the subject. So, let me know what are your questions, fears regarding the audit initially. We can start on that base. So, let me know initially what are your fears, questions. Just type it in the chat box or let me know if you're courage enough, you can come up and speak up. What are your doubts? Fears, depending upon your experience, your index mapping, all that.
So, one thing what I've really understood with audit is like this is where I feel I lacked. So, basically, it's like they're asking a certain question, they're expecting someone answer, and I'm writing
Mm,
one more answer. I mean, actually look at the question when I actually look at the solution, it's actually another answer. This is with
mm,
regards to standards, especially.
mm, mm,
So when you read a question,
mm,
you feel like okay, probably it's application of so and so standards, and
mm,
you write your answers based on so and so standards, but it's
mm,
actually something else. So that is where
mm.
the linking I feel I am missing, to be very
Okay,
honest.
okay, okay. So next is mm. So this is one of the things, and one more thing, students generally fear that we are lacking these key terms or something else in the audit. So the base for the audit is understanding. when you're starting with the audit, you should start understanding in the correct. If the input is wrong, the output would be obviously wrong. So the audit should be divided in such a way that there are some chapters where the understanding is the key, the linking is the key. There are some standards where the remembrance is the key. So there are two key areas that should be differentiated. You cannot apply the same approach for the whole 3 modules. So this is the base you should be starting with. While you're doing the standards, let me share the screen if possible.
Yeah, you can, Maitreya.
Give me a minute. Then
Maitreya, given you access, are you able to use it?
yes.
Okay, fine.
Give me a minute. So are you able to see my screen? Okay. So now you are able to see my screen. So the base would be, if you are seeing the module one mostly depends upon your understanding of the concepts. So when you say understanding of the concepts, the audit is a practical subject, as Simkan sir said, but understanding has a base. When you start reading a standard, the base should be built. So why the standard is incorporated by the ICA, why it is being implemented, so what are the probabilities of the questions that may be asked from the standard. So this is the base you should be having while starting each standard. So proper, what we call, thought should be given while reading the standard. So why the standard has been incorporated? What are the different types of questions that may arise from the standard? So last evening we had a discussion on, I'm not able to see this thing. I don't know why. Sir, let me stop this sharing.
Do you have to share something? You can tell me. I'll share.
Sir, I want this study mat, or else the people have study mats. That also.
No, I'll open it on the screen. Give me a minute.
No, then that works. So basically, for the question the Bharani asked, the standards is the area which most of the people, what we call, fail to score more marks. So basically, I'll discuss about the standards in allopment. So when you start the standards are incorporated in the syllabus in such a way that they're framed in such a way that there is a flow for the standards. You start with 200 and you end with 700 series. 200 to 700 series is a flow. You need to understand the flow. You can remember the numbers of the standards. You can remember the content of the standard. You will be able to link the standards. So that's the game.
Is this fine?
Yes, that would be. Yeah. So if you see, 200 series generally starts with the understanding of the audit subject. So again, I am telling, the interlinking comes with understanding. You need to understand why the standards are incorporated in such a way from 200 to 700. So 200 series starts with the understanding of the audit, why audit is done, how audit is done, who can do the audit. So what are the precautions? Like, do the documentation to be done, what to be done when the fraud is happened 240, how to use this, what we call, laws and compliances when they arise, how to audit them. So all this comes under 200 fields. 300 comes, you have the basic understanding how audit is to be done. You have the basic understanding what are the key elements of the audit. You have the basic understanding what is intention of the audit. So now you are going to the client place and actually you start working from 300. You will plan the audit, you will establish some materiality, you will assess some risks. What are the risks of material misstatements? You will assess the effects of the risk of material misstatement. 300 is done. 400 is some different area where if the client which you are auditing uses the use of a service sector industry or a service provider, then what to be done is divided is discussed in 402. 450 is somewhat different standard. Let us keep it aside. So 500 is the audit of the financial statements. So audit of financial statement means if you see 500, 500 starts with audit evidence, opening balances, audit evidence of special consideration items, analytical procedures, audit sampling. It is more on purely working on the field. So 500 series is more on working on the field. 540 is on estimates. 570 is on going concern. 580 is on written representation. And 600 is on using the different people other than the what we call in-house engagement teams to help us conclude the audit. So 600 is done. All this done. If you see again, it is linked to 200. 200 tells that audit is being done to report on something. So you start reporting in 700. So this is how linking is happened. So if you go detailed into the each standard, it will be pretty easy for us. So for every 500 question, you will be starting with 500, but ending with 700. But if you see repeatedly, other than 240, no 200 question will be ending with 700 conclusion. Right? If you start 570, if the question comes in as a 570 going concern, the answer would be completed in 705, whether to give the modified opinion or disclaimer of opinion. If the standard starts with written what we call that audit evidence, if you are not able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, depending upon materiality and pervasiveness, you will be ending at 705. So this is how linking is happened. So the linking should happen while you are reading the standards. If you want, we can have a separate session on each standards, how linking will be happening. So I'm just telling things can be done. Things can be done in pretty easy manner when you go in the right direction. So I just want to establish that premise first. So if you come to the standards, people think that we are having 36 standards. SQC1. Including SQC1, we are having 36 standards. So these 36 standards are pretty important for the conduct of the audit. Another new standards are added, SRE, some other standards. So primarily focus on these standards because they carry huge weightage in the exam. So try to master the standards. How standards should be read. So there is a specific way how to approach the standards. One is that you should understand the flow, why the standards are arranged in such a flow. This is the primary thing. The linking will come with the practice. If any gaps are there, we can discuss and close them. So the fear of standards will be mitigated. So again, there are some standards where most priority should be given. If you see SA 700 series, at least one question from SA 700 appears in the exam. So it is not so easy to crack the questions because SA 700 is mostly judgmental based. Whether they will give a scenario, whether you will place the scenario in the other information paragraph or other matter paragraph, other information, other matter seems to be similar, but they are not. Key audit matter paragraph, emphasis of matter paragraph, other matter paragraph. Similar to be everything is a paragraph, but what should be done is the work of the chartered accountant. Which item should be or which situation or which observation should be kept in which paragraph is what we should deal with. So you should have the clear understanding of the each definition. What is key audit matter paragraph? What is emphasis of matter paragraph? What is other matter paragraph? So while reading, if you are giving one reading, all the 700 series completed, you should try to sit for another 10 to 15 minutes and start linking it. So all this other matter, key audit matter, and emphasis of matter paragraph, and other information forms part of audit report. But why they are different from each other? Everything can be dumped in one paragraph, right? Whole audit report will be read by one person, right? Why they are clearly differentiated? What is their significance? So this thought should provoke. So when you spend 115 to 20 minutes after completion of whole 700 series, you can easily conclude you should take a white piece of paper, clearly bifurcate each paragraph, and need to understand what is what. Then it would be easy for you. We can write it down and explain it to you. That would be pretty easy. But if you given reading, if you build some perspective, we will have a discussion and we can conclude those things. So this is one thing regarding the SA 700 series. SA 500 is more about procedure. SA 500 consists of different procedures. How estimates are audited, how going concern established by the management is audited, what to do with the written representation, how is written representation different from the audit evidence. And one more thing, important thing is we'll bang these analytical procedures. What are analytical procedures? What is audit sampling? So these are the different things which are in the SF 500 series. So this is more on procedures, how audit is being done. So when something comes on practicality, the chances of getting these sort of things in SF 500 is very what you call high. So 500, 600, 700 series standards are pretty critical for us. So what would I like to tell you is, when you're reading a standard, first understand the premise, go to the standard, develop a flow, do the Q&A. Don't what we call worry about whether I would remember it in the exams or not, what would happen in the exams or not. First, ignite your common sense, then start linking with the terminology and everything while doing with the question bank, then close it. If you are getting standard for 5 to 6 marks, 1 or 2 to 3 marks will be locked out there. Some confidence will be built. When we are doing for the second time, standards are being done for the second time, things would be easy for us. So this is what is the strategy we are going to follow for the standards. Mostly standards are going to come for around 60 marks in the new syllabus. So it is pretty critical area for us. So majority of the problem is solved in the audit. It would be easy for me to tell that the majority problem is solved, but you will be getting n number of challenges. While implementing this, while solving the question bank, you will think one answer for one question, you will be arriving at different answer. Then you should understand the interpretation is wrong. Then you should come back, ask who is there, some mentor will be there to help you, or I will be there to help you. You should ask them. So you should think first whether your understanding is wrong, whether your understanding is correct. Then there is some conflict of points between your understanding and the answer. So some questions will be there like that. You should not what we call stuck at that questions and drain your energy. Just move on, mark that question, and complete the standards as quick as possible. And one more thing that is more critical is professional ethics for us. So once you are done with the standards, professional ethics is the chapter which gains the more weightage. So unlike standards, professional ethics is something which is from the Act, Chartered Accountants Act 1949. So professional ethics is particularly established Act to what you call regulate the functioning of the chartered accountant profession. So you cannot bring out your common sense and put in unnecessary stuff into the professional ethics and start bringing your own conclusions. Professional ethics should be read as it is. What is given in the Act should be read, should be understood, and it should be written. So as I told you in the standards, you should not put in your 100% common sense. You should be telling why chartered accountant should not be doing like this, why chartered accountant should be doing like this. This is none of our business. It's pretty clear that it is given in the Act that the chartered accountant should not sign this type of the documents. He should not predict on the projections unless some conditions are met. He should not enter into partnership with some specified persons. All these things are pretty critical that are framed from 1949 Act, and these things work. So you should understand why these are framed. You should understand what is to be done. You should solve questions and your professional ethics is done. So 60 plus 20. So let us take 15. So in this 60 marks, there is one area where these new standards are coming in. So we will what we call work on the new standards a bit later. So standards are the key and the professional ethics is the key. And coming to what we call next areas, where the all the standards and professional ethics, the quantum is more, the volume is more, and the marks are also more. But there are some areas in the audit where the volume is less, but the marks are more. These are the key areas where when the questions come in the exam, they sure shot the marks should be reflected in the mark sheet. So these areas you need not put lots of effort. You should put conscious effort. It's like you need two revisions for these areas and you are done with these areas. All you need to do is properly focusing on the areas and working on them, reading them, remembering them, making revisions. It's like 15 minutes the chapter will be completed if you try to revise such chapter in 1.5 day. So we identified that chapters for you. It's like mostly it's on so just try to see in the module 2, these are the areas where group audits is there, CFS, it's used to be CFS. This comes for around 5 marks. And this is a sure short question in the every alternate attempt, this chapter, this question arrives in the exam. So this is very easy. This can be done. So another area is digital auditing and assurance, which is automated auditing in the automated environment in the whole syllabus. So this is pretty easy. Chapter of 20 pages. You will sure shot get the 5 marks. If you are fortunate, you can get MCQs. So see, this is done. And another area where you will 100% get the questions is emerging areas. That is ESG and SDG. Practically also, this is one of the most trending topics in the market. So ICI included in the syllabus. So 5 plus 5 plus 5, 15 marks. Sure, you know. By reading this 20 pages, I will be getting 5 marks. By reading this 10 pages, I will be getting 5 marks. By reading this 15 pages, I will be getting 5 marks. So your 15 marks are sorted. And one more area where the question sure shot will come. It's like alternate attempts. Mostly it will come in the exam is due diligence, investigation, and the forensic audit. These are three different areas. Uh, Compared to the previous syllabus, some topics are chopped down. So it is pretty simple for you now. Another 5 marks, 20 marks are like very simple for you. This question will come in the exam, you know. This is like very closed areas. Unlike standards and professional ethics, these are closed areas. So you can work on these areas. So your 20 marks are sorted, 15 marks in professional ethics, 40 marks in standards, and 20 marks in other areas. So your denominator is 40 plus 15 plus 40 plus 15, 55 plus 20, 75. So your denominator 75 is sorted. You are preparing for 75. Obviously, here and there, if things go right or wrong, you will be getting at least 40 to 45 out of it. So this is the approach. You should not be intimidated by the volume of the chapters. You should not be intimidated by the nature of the subject. It's like by hook or crook, you need to prepare for the exam. You need to attend the exam. So you need to divide, understand your strengths and weaknesses. Some person may be more inclined towards practical approach. He cannot remember more. He may start reading the standards, linking the terminologies, can easily reciprocate in the questions. So this is his key area or strength area. Some people are like they can decode the acts, remember acts, what we call copy, paste what is in the act in the question paper. So these people who cannot practically imply the things, professional ethics and these areas will be strength. So this is how we can make a SWOT analysis in the existing subject. We cannot change the subject. We can only what we call flex ourselves and our strengths to optimize the what we call marks in the subject. So this is the game we are playing. So initially start with standards, follow this approach, try to solve questions. So questions is the important thing. What people generally do is they don't solve the questions. They start doing research in the audit. They start reading essay 200 for one day. They start investigating each and everything. SQC 1, essay 220 for one day, full day. So try to understand what the standard is going to tell. So try to understand what is the approach. So for standards, if you start talking about the approach of each standard, it will take good amount of time. So at least by the end of 5 days or 6 days, once the standards are done, we will just list down the standards which you are not able to figure out, which you are not able to remember, and which areas more errors are being made. For that standards, we will have a session. We'll pick out 5 to 6 standards or 8 standards. We'll have a whole session for that standards. That would be easy for everyone. Mostly everybody will be having the same standards or trouble areas where 540, 220, 315, 330, SQC1. These areas people will find more technical and stuff. We'll be having a session on that. We will be closing the standards. So put your efforts where you find it easy, where the areas where you can push yourself and complete it as quick as possible. So this is the whole game. So other areas you would be wondering, PSUs, banks, NBFCs, and new standards that are included, which are like specialized areas, related services, and review of financial information. Chapter 8, 9, 10, 11. These things, as per the previous, we cannot, these things, we are not leaving them. Obviously, we will be going into them, we will be solving them, questions will be solved, and these things will be done. But as per our previous paper analysis, we should be smart doing the audit. We have 8 subjects, 6 subjects to tackle with. So we should be smart enough. What should be done in the priority basis? What should be done on a later basis? Later basis is not in the October. Later basis is when you're starting August 1st, when your starting date of audit is August 1st, later basis is on August 7th. So you should keep it in mind. Later basis is not shifting it slightly towards the October 1st. It's 10 days is audit will be done in 10 days. So prioritize it. What should be read on a daily basis will be shared with you. You can start reading them, but I just want to establish the premise how audit should be handled. You will be having a number of questions, you will be having a number of years. That should be cleared up. It's pretty easy. When you are having challenges, people are here, they will clear challenges. But the mindset should be pretty clear that, so this is the path we are going in. This is the approach we are following. So these are the books we are going to read. This is the question bank we are going to solve. So if the question comes from this part, how complicated the question may be, you should understand at least 2 to 3 marks I'm going to pick from this question. If question is for 5 marks, I'm going to pick at least 2 to 3 marks from this question. So this is the mindset that I want to establish by the end of this session. So there are some chapters like banks, NBFCs, PSUs. These chapters are like, banks is a bulky chapter. NBFC is like more technical chapter, which are sector specific, where what we call, there is something you need to learn, write in the exam, come back. We can apply practical insights into it, but applying practical insights into everything dilutes everything. So these chapters, we will be following a method where we will be making it more quick, no deep digging into the chapter. There are areas where most questions are repeated in these chapters. So we are going to make it simple for you. So we cannot take this chance in the standards or in professional ethics. They should be done in the way they should be done. That the time should be given for them. So make sure that you follow the approach while starting the audit. So if you have any challenges, questions on a daily basis, or if you're facing any what we call that hiccups or that resistance moving forward with the subject, try to handle it by yourselves, because it gives you that push. When you outsource some things, it's like what we call, it's the same thing will happen in the exam. You'll not be able to solve the problem or solve the question if you're not able to push your brain beyond some point of it. So try it by yourself till some point. If you're not able to do that, approach the mentors who are available for you, or you can text me by the EOD. Things are not solved, we will sit and solve the things. So this is the approach that I'm looking into audit for the next coming 10 days. So after this briefing, any other questions? Obviously, you should be having questions. You are going to write exams.
Auditing is there.
Mm.
So many technical terms are there.
Mm.
So many questions are there. In each question, so many headings are there.
Mm.
How do we will remember that question. We have to write that side headings. Another question is there we have to write that side headings. So many questions are there in digital audit. Everything is like similar only, but words are different. So how will remember?
So digital audit. So I included that in the chapters where 5 marks we can get it easily, and they should be remembered. So how to remember them? You cannot what we call by heart them. By hearting 30 to 40 pages is pretty hard. So all you need is to understand them. So make a basic understanding. So understand what is in the question. So you just open the book. I'll just let you know. Any book is fine. So are you able to hear? Sir?
Audible.
No. What is your name?
Pardon?
Sir, Kalki asked one question actually.
Acha, I missed it. Okay, can you repeat it for me? Acha.
Actually, he's asking how can we deal with chapters like digital audit where everything seems to be one. And how can we differentiate the different topics in digital audit? So let me explain. So if you have idea of the digital auditing, every chapter has a flow. The beauty of audit is every chapter has a flow. There is no chapter that doesn't have any flow. You should pick up that flow. If you pick up that flow, you will be understanding what are the areas questions will be asking. So you bifurcate the chapter based on the flow. You study the chapter and you can find out the areas where things will be easy and where things will be tough. So this is the game. So if you see digital audit, so digital audit, first part is all about definitions. It's all about what is digital audit, how do you do the digital audit, and what is an IT environment. After this, there is a part where it specifies that what are the risks that you would be facing while doing the digital audit. So this is the thing. So you are sharing something.
Yeah. So this kind of explains. So these are the only possible questions in
Yep.
digital audit. It won't go beyond this.
Yes.
So you need to understand what are features, what are advantages, what are considerations. So if you break it out in this aspect, things will be very clear because a 5 marker will be asked, out of which you'll have to score 3 marks maybe. So for that, this is good enough. So we'll give you this. Yeah.
So if the examiner is asking you to put in the effort for 5 marks, you should be putting in the effort for 5 marks only. So that's the game. You cannot dwell in 100% into these chapters. Obviously, you need to be understanding the things. So if you're not understanding some things, we will be there to help you. That's a different thing. So if you see, this is the thing. The first 3-4 pages of the chapter is generally about what is the chapter, what are the advantages, disadvantages. So obviously they will be trying to establish the premise. Audit is all about risk. And again, if you see the standard, if you see professional ethics, everything comes in one basket, mitigating the risk to the auditor. Or what are the risks faced by the auditor while doing the audit. So it becomes more practical if I go into all these things, let it be. So if you go into this second part is all about how you execute the things. Third part is all about what are the new improvement or what are the fancy things that are being done in the market with related to the digital audit. So this is the way we break the chapter into 3 parts. First chapter is pretty simple. First chapter is pretty what we call, it's more about explaining you what is digital audit. Second part is all about how you do the audit. It's about action that to be taken. Third part is all about what are the different tools in the market, what are the different things that are being happening in the market. So just break the chapter into 3 parts. Then one chapter seems to be 3 chapters, and you can understand which questions that would be arriving in the exam. If you see, most of the questions you come from third part, because third part is the something which is being happening in the market. Data analytics, blockchain, what we call, there is something called CAAT. cat. So these are the fancy terms in the market that is being happening in the market. ICA generally asks the question paper depending upon what is relevant in the market. So if you break the chapter, you can easily understand what is happening. So this is one thing.
See, one of the simplest way to understand where you go wrong is, so normally at a granular level, if you look at this, features and advantages. Now, while you're studying, if you're not clearly distinguishing, there is a very good chance that informed decision might come and sit in advantage. So in a way, they're extremely closely related. But how do you distinguish? How do you differentiate? Features are something which may or may not be a clear-cut advantage. So fundamentally, you need to know the difference between what is a feature and what is an advantage. Unless you know this, the Angrezi part of it, the left-hand side, what is a feature and what is an advantage, you may not be able to distinguish this. So advantages are clear-cut end outcomes. Let's say, if you're talking about advantages, the way you should visualize this, advantage of digital audit. Once again, advantage of digital audit over what? Advantage is always relative. Advantage is always comparative. If you singularly try to memorize this, you may not be able to remember. Now let's add this. Advantage of digital audit over physical audit. Okay, if you look at it, if you look at this as a question, now it talks about enhanced effectiveness and efficiency. Of course, because physical audit, there is a lot of paperwork to be done, and we cannot work together. For example, if I have to work on a audit file, what you're seeing, this notes we have collectively worked along with Mitra. So where we can alter it real time. If the same thing is written in my notebook, I have to carry the notebook, and every time I have to make a correction, I have to flip the next page, right? It's a small example. Here, if I want to change something, I can directly like, okay, I want to write, okay, let's say I want to make it affordable cost. That's it. This is done. Imagine this being done at a physical level. So effectiveness and efficiency. Now, as you are thinking of advantages, what is the disadvantage? It is prone to manipulation easily. So you just add the context to the question and think thoroughly. That will give you a lot of understanding, better audit quality, lower cost, better analytics, improved risk assessment. So for you to know an advantage, it is always comparative, it is always relative. Now features, when you talk about it, key features of digital audit, let me remove digital here. Key features of audit, okay, reliable report, informed decisions, standard process, end-to-end understanding. So generally, when you look at features are a bit generic. Even if I remove the word called digital, even if I have to add physical audit, 70 to 80% of the features are generic, right? So this is exactly how you have to quickly think through what could be that. Now, once you understand this, now general features of audit can be used for digital audit, but when it comes to advantages are always specific to that specific program or to the specific process. So advantages offer USP. So there is a good chance that a question might be focused on advantages rather than features. So the sharpness in terms of understanding and how do you differentiate between two things? For example, if you further go ahead, now there are a lot of things about risks arising from use of information technology. If you understand this, if you understand all the advantages here, most of them are the contrary of the advantages here. Unauthorized access. Right now, if I have a physical notebook, you cannot come and access it easily, right? Now, if this is there, I share the link, a lot of people will be easily able to access it. When something is available digitally, there is a high chance of access. And again, if I have my physical notebook, I keep it in my cupboard. So nobody can do anything. Now, if I share this with Maitreya, he can share it with someone, or if I share this with anyone, it can be shared, right? My notebook is with me. So very fundamental and simpler aspects of how you look at things. So simplify it to the core while you're understanding. So as he rightly said initially, the first part is understanding. While you're trying to understand, simplify it to the core. Once understanding is done, then you can sit and package it with keywords. Do not try to memorize it with keywords together at a time. As long as you try doing it, you will not remember, you will not understand. So first cycle, focus on understanding. That is exactly how you have to do it. So each and everything, don't try to memorize it. just see it from a context of what are the possible aspects which are surrounding the risk of IT. So the right way to do it is if you close these points and try to put in 2 to 3 minutes of thought before you actually read it, that will work like an adhesive. What I would normally do is before I read anything, let's say anything regarding anything, before I read, I just want to initially understand. I just want to think through what could happen. Let's say if I talk about the Israel conflict or Iran era conflict or any conflict, you think about what could be the potential risk or why is the nuclear regime once again triggering between Russia and US. You think about it. What could be the reason? So think about any random question and think about what could be the likely reason. 50-60% you will be able to trigger with your common sense. Rest of it you fill it. So put in extra 2-3 minutes of thinking before you start reading. So if you do this together, these chapters will be falling into your mind far more seamlessly. This is a boring process, but it makes it very, very efficient. Most of the efficient things are very boring.
Very true. Yeah.
Okay, this is something what you have to understand. So I'm making it simple. If you're feeling bored, if you're feeling a bit stuck, if you're feeling tired, it means you're doing well. If you're somehow moving fast, probably something is off. When it comes to audit, learning auditing is a very, very, very boring process. You have to embrace boredom, then things will start falling into place. So if you're looking for that instant dopamine hits, Instagram, not auditing, right? So that you can't compare that experience with this and it will never happen. But once you cross 40 plus, then you can play with it. You have to be patient to hit the first 40. The first 40 is boring. After that, it's very cool.
So I just have another question.
Yes, please.
When it comes to standards and all, the objective, the scope, the reporting objective at the end of the day, it seems the same.
No, not at all. Let's see. See, I can always say all students have same problems, but
Correct.
it ended similar, right? Everyone has the same problem. Cannot study, cannot remember, cannot write. What else is there? So, but then this is exactly where you have to put in that extra effort and create that compartments in your mind and personalize things, right? So you have to put that perspective. Probably let's quickly look at the scenario before I give it back to Maitreya. So let's see this. I think since you asked a good question, I'm sharing this. Okay. So what do you think are the standards which look same or similar for you? Let's see. See, first is quality control. Now, fundamentally, why do you think this chapter is here? Chapter one. Let's spend 5-10 minutes here. Why do you think we have quality control in the first chapter?
It's the base for everything.
No, be more specific. Base for what?
For the
Why are we
audit, for
having
the
quality
audit,
control at the
for the
first
audit
chapter?
of the audit of the financial statements.
Okay. No, I'm not thinking. Anyone? The
So
hints are also visible on the screen. Go ahead.
maintaining quality of audit.
Yeah. Why is it here? So what is audit? Let's say a firm, any company or organization, financial statements. Now, once the financial statements are audited, what does it imply?
Audit.
What does it imply? What is the implication of audit?
We can rely on them.
Yeah. When you say that you can rely on them, what do you mean by them? What do you mean by them?
They are accurate.
Okay. What else? See, let's simplify this. Now, when you buy some products, there is a tick mark called quality check, right? When you buy any product, you have ever noticed quality check, right?
Yes.
So, which means it is meeting what it is saying. What is quality check? Gold, 99.9%. What is quality? What is the purity which they are communicating is what it is, right? So, when you do audit is a quality check. Now, financial statements have some numbers. You're doing a quality check that it is meaning what they are saying. The assets are at 1.2 lakh crores. They're actually at that value. That's it. That is exactly audit. So for you to do that quality check, as a firm, do you have your own internal quality? Is a firm qualified enough, or is a firm having necessary quality procedures to certify quality for someone else? Okay, this is a meta thinking thing, right? So this is the reason why it is given upfront. Now here it is talking about general principles and responsibilities. So generally, if you want to step into the suit of an auditor, what are the various possibilities? Because the first problem in audit is there could be a fraud, right? So how do you respond to fraud, and how do you ensure the laws and regulations which are applicable for that organization are respected, and how do you communicate with the people who are charged with governance? And joint audit, what if there is another guy along with you? And service organizations, what are the things? So these are the various aspects. You quickly think through this, you'll be able to remember it. So there is a clear cut, see, within general auditing principles, each scenario there is in each audit. These are all different scenarios, right? There are different possibilities. There are different scenarios. So one is quality control, which generally talks about how do you ensure quality control for firms that perform audits. Simple. You read this sentence, it helps you understand. Firms guarantee quality of financial statements to external users. So within the firm, how do you ensure control? So this is quality control, simple and straightforward. Then general auditing principles. I told you for various scenarios, there are 5 scenarios. You have general audit for each of this. Then audit planning, strategy, and execution. Before you actually go ahead and start doing it, before you do it, these are the checklists. These are the certain things which has to happen before you jump into action. So for each and everything, they are given. How do you use the work of internal auditor? How do you use the work of an auditor's expert? And how do you use estimates? These are very important, and as analytical procedures and all of them. So this is before audit. So 3 things are before audit. Now materiality risk assessment starts once you start working, because you can only have a detailed understanding. So 1, 2, 3 are pre-audit, slightly pre-audit. So 4 and 5 are the core aspects of audit. Okay, introduction, body. 4 and 5 are the core. That happens at the core of the audit, and 6 is conclusion. 6 and 7 conclusion, right? So this is exactly how you segregate in each and every scenario. Pre-audit, 1, 2, 3 chapters are pre-audit, 4 and 5 are during audit, and 6 and 7 are at the conclusion level of audit. So for each and every chapter, there are certain specific standards which you talk about. So how you can actually remember this, sir? 7 chapters are about core audit. So for each and every chapter, let's say reporting, the best way to remember is using a single chart 700, 701, 705, 706. Write a comparative table. So that will clearly help you distinguish between each and every standard within that chapter. So 7 chapters, 7 pages. That's it. You do it. It hardly takes a couple of hours. One day, if you put in mental effort, you'll be done. That 7 pages will be instrumental in helping you distinguish between each and everything. At the heading, you write the same thing: forming an opinion, communicating key matters, modification of the opinion. See, form an opinion, communicate, and modify. If you have to modify something, that is it. And emphasis is model. What are the additional areas which you're highlighting? That's it. So this is as simple as it. Now, when you look at chapters 8 and 9, so these are exceptions. So general auditing scenario, 7 chapters are covered, and chapters 8 and 9 are for specialized areas and related services, and you're done. So if you put in some mental effort slightly and create those scenarios, that's it. There is a very, very, very clear cut distinction. Very, very clear cut distinction. Got it? So 7 core chapters of regular audit, 4 chapters of additional audit, and remaining 8 chapters of other chapters. So these 8 chapters, you can target 40 plus marks. 18 generally, you will get an average of 5 marks. So except the professional ethics, but still there will be a chapter where a question might not be asked. So that's the reason why 40 marks from 8 chapters, 60 marks from 11 chapters. Or in fact, the first 7 chapters itself will give you almost 50 marks, because the question paper comes at 114 marks. So you look at it, you play the game. The first 7 chapters are the last 8 chapters. First 7 are last 8. What is your target area? What is your core focus? If you play like this, you have clear cut segregation. 40 marks, let's say 20 marks, another 40 marks. Okay, so this is exactly how you can create distinction. And Maitreya, make sure all of them actually prepare those charts, because that's important. Probably help them do one. So 7 chapters, 7 charts. Each chart there are hardly 4 or 5 standards. You're done and dusted. Cool. Yeah, over to you, Maitreya.
Done. So this is the point I want to make, which Himkan sir said. So you should not do newspaper reading when you're reading the audit. So a thought should be given when you're reading. Something should happen. You should feel exhausted when you're reading audit for the whole day. So this is one thing which is very important. So that is why generally people do not read audit whole day. They'll read 1 hour per each day. They'll read for 3 days. Fourth day they'll stop reading. They'll fail in the exam. So this is a cycle. We are going to break it. We should feel exhausted. We should read audit for 10 days continuously. You're done with audit. You will remember the things because this is not something organic chemistry. This is just audit, which is practically done, practically implied, built on the common sense. Audit is built on the common sense. Common sense linked with technicality because common sense is very vague. So they have combined it, put in the book. They have built some standards because common sense would be very open. So they have built some standards to execute and work on it. So this is the flow of the audit. So you start thinking it is simple. You start thinking that is something which is related to your common sense. So invoking the common sense with is something which is hard. So reading audit should exhaust you. That you need to remember. If you find something which is easy, something which is easy flowing for you, just get back to the questions. Then you will find how many mistakes you are doing in interpreting the standards or understanding the audit. This is the only way audit can be broken down and it can be cracked. So there will be different names that can be used, but most of the students, most of the faculty who cleared, who are working in the market, do the same. So they read, understand, link it with their common sense, or they bring in the common sense for an issue, link it with the standards, and they concluded something. So it would be very useful for you when you go to the practical market also. So think that this 10 days is going to be your investment in the audit. Obviously, you would be getting 40, 45, 50, 60 depending upon your capabilities. And it will be very useful for building up that mindset of an auditor works. So 10 days full of audit would be very careful. And one more thing is that your PDR and DERs. For rest of the subjects, it should be done. For audit, if it is not done, all the 12 hours or 8 hours which you are doing in the mornings are waste of time. So reading 5 standards or 6 standards or 10 standards in a day is a different thing, and comprising it and writing down all the standards in 1.5 hour is a different game. When you are able to read the standards, when you are able to understand the standards, then you should be able to write down them in the precise form in the 1.5 hour in the DER and able to recall at least 60 to 70% of these things in the next day PDR. This should be compulsorily done. You maintain a book for it. This should be very helpful in the 1.5 day for you. Obviously, everything that you are doing this 10 day, 100-day cycle, 50-day cycle is to recall in the 1.5 day and write in the exam for 3 hours. You need to remember this. You will be not getting another 10 days for your audit. These 10 days are 10 days. After 10 days, you will be getting 5 days. After 5 days, you will be getting 1.5 day. After 1.5 day, you will be getting 3 days. So down the line, things should become easy for you. If the things should become easy for you, you should work hard in these 10 days. So this is the premise we are building for you. So what should be read, how to be read is explained for you. So it is simple to tell, to explain you how things should be done. When you are executing, you may face some problems. They are there to help you, but start with a positive mindset. Start with an what we call uh, enthusiasm, excitement. Then things will move forward. 3 months you need to work hard, but these 10 days are very important. Once you are confident on audit, every subject will fall in place. So that is one thing we are looking at. So write your DERs, write your PDRs. And one more thing is don't do newspaper reading. We are not in a running competition where you will be reading 10 pages per day, 12 pages per day. Obviously, pace should be there. Obviously, speed should be there. But you should read consciously what you're reading. It's not like moving the pages here and there. Try to solve as number of questions in this gap. It may be wrong, it may be right. Again, questions invoke your thought process. Questions question your understanding of the concept. So then you can re-establish the what we call understanding of certain concepts in the audit. So that is one thing very important. So these are the insights from our side. So again, if you have any questions, ask us. Let us know how simple the questions may be. Just you let us know. It will be helpful for our students also.
Guys, So tomorrow, what we want to do is the first 7 chapters. Let's say first chapter there are 2 standards. So write the heading of the chapter, write the complete heading of the chapter. 2 standards, standard number, name, and then objective and key topics. Okay, single sheet, done. Only single sheet. Next, second chapter, we'll be having 5 standards, if I'm right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Third chapter 6. Maximum 6 or 7 standards will be there in each chapter. So just do a single page summary of all standards. It starts with a standard name and then some pointers for each and every standard. So that is exactly what you have to do. Okay. All of you do this commonly. All 7 chapters needs to be done tomorrow itself. Is it clear? Maitri, I'm taking 1 day off the regular schedule. Is that fine? I think wouldn't it could give them a complete perspective over and above the index mapping they've done it. But I think this is 50 marks. So I think this will give them pretty good context, because what I realized is even after preparation for the entire cycle, they're still not able to distinguish between. Soundarya, you asked the right question. I think this is the solution. I don't have a single minute solution, but then you put in 10 hours, things will be sorted. And this is also allow them to discuss between each other, facilitate and discuss between each other. Okay, this is something which you have to clearly understand.
So discussion should be productive. Something which I want to tell you. Discussion should happen for the exchange of insights between you people. So once you read the standard, again I told you in 700 people will be coming up with different perspectives of the standard. So make sure that by the end of the discussion you are concluding on some right basis. So that is pretty critical. So tomorrow you can take for this for the exercise. Make sure this thing is happening. So sir, I think whole day would be more for them. It's like if you reduce the time slot, intensity will be increased. If you increase the time slot, they'll like not. Let us make it maybe by 3. They should be done by this.
No, one okay. Basically, I want to go through them and do it, because there will be at least 35 standards, something like that. We're looking at half an hour each.
We are going. Actually, they have done their index mapping, right? It's pretty much simple that they will be arriving at the objectives and they will be noting it down.
Okay.
So my understanding, sir. Anyway, this should be done in same way. If you are writing SFM, coming down tomorrow morning, you'll be looking at all the standards. 8 hours, it should be done.
Yeah.
Put yourself, things will happen. Just try doing it.
Yes, do it before 10 o'clock then. I think 3.5 hours would be fine. Half an hour per chapter. Let's see how it goes.
So no, if
you're talking about, see, Maitreya, the 2 things. Doing it in detailed manner or just doing it superficially. So what I would need is for them to remember the standard name and the objective. So if our objective is to make sure they understand it, it's very fast, because now that they have done index mapping also, it can be done real fast. So probably by 10 o'clock would be a good time. Like before breakfast, let them see. Some of them will complete 4 chapters, some of them will complete 5 chapters, some of them will be 3. And then from 10 o'clock, give a, let's say, 7-8 hours schedule. So that is what you can give it to them. Is it fine?
Fine.
Okay, what is tomorrow's target? What are they supposed to complete tomorrow?
So I'm looking at starting with the SA700 series because end of the day reporting is the key. So when they start reporting, they can link it with SA500. If they start 500 series or something, which is pretty important, they don't understand what is this, what is the trillion and number of questions. So let them start with SA700 series. 700, 500, 600 is what I'm looking at. So mostly if they're starting at 10 o'clock, let us make it 10:30. So 700 series can be completed by 4:30.
Okay.
It will be completed again. Make sure that you are differentiating each paragraph in the 700 series. It's not like you are reading it, forgetting it. You should carry forward and write it in the exam. You should carry forward. If you are fortunate, you are getting into stat audit, you should remember it for your whole life. It's a different thing, but make sure that things are getting established in your brain. After 700, start with 600 series. Mostly 700 and 600 will be completed tomorrow. Should be completed. They can be.
Okay, got it, guys. One is a comparison chart for all the standards where you get chapter wise in a white sheet, horizontal, done. And apart from that, go deep in the 700 series. Okay. Anything else, Maitreya?
Nothing else.
Okay. Guys, rest of you leave the Varuna gang to stay.